Hello there, Peter Saturday from Universal Dork. I'm back again today. I've been wanting to cover more underseen, underrated, Halloween-themed horror gems on the channel before this month is over with, because this is one of my favorite times of the year. I feel like I've discovered most of them from, the early 2000s and back. Every now and again, though, you discover something really worth watching, and today I wanted to talk about one that I saw for the very first time last year. It is a 2004 movie called The HAZING. Yes, this one is an underrated movie and very underseen. I mean, most people that I've talked to have no idea what the hell this fucking thing is, and I don't know how the hell I discovered this last year. Maybe I was poking around looking for Halloween-themed stuff, but I grabbed this on DVD. It was pretty cheap. You probably find this online for less than $10. Best thing about this one is it does indeed take place on Halloween, and it also features, in the role of the villain in the movie, none other than Chucky Dourif. And I don't think that he ever phones in a performance. So even though this is a lower budget film, you can check that out there, he is here giving it his all, 110%, like he usually does. I gotta admire the guy for that. And this also stars sort of a modern scream queen, Tiffany Shepis. She's in here and she is awesome. You got a couple horror icons, in my opinion, starring in this film. This fits into that category that I love so much, which is complete bonehead numbnut characters stuck in a horrific situation. And that is exactly what The HAZING is, and this thing takes place on Halloween night. It features the holiday prominently, and it is a big part of the film's actual plot. So this director, Rolf Kanefsky, he's pretty popular for another film that he did in 1991 amongst cult horror fans called There's Nothing Out There. Now that's a really great movie. If you've never seen it, it does have a Blu-ray release, and I highly recommend grabbing that one. That's probably his best film. It's kind of like Scream before Scream. There's a lot of meta horror in there, meta aspects to horror, where people are using knowledge from horror films to try to survive and make it all the way to the end of the film. It's a neat little creature feature, which is one of my favorite genres, obviously, little creatures. So you've got to check out There's Nothing Out There from 1991 if you've never seen it, and then probably follow it up with The HAZING. I'm going to say that these are his best films. I've seen a couple more of his. He has a few more horror films as well. Actually, a pretty hefty catalog of horror stuff, but also mainly erotic softcore films, filled with numbnuts as well, no pun intended. So knowing the background of the director and his erotica and softcore interest, you can see in this film that he is still getting that urge to throw all of that stuff into this one. You'll see a lot of bonehead nudity kind of pushed into the plot here and there with these idiotic frat guys with naked women dancing around them, which actually does make for kind of an entertaining movie. This has a lot of humor in it that probably wouldn't fly so much 20 years later now in 2024. I mean, God, has it really been that long? 2004 doesn't seem like it's that long ago, I guess, until you actually sit down and watch a film from 2004. You can really see the difference in the way that they are put together here. Even in the very beginning here, you get Dourif. He plays this kind of psychopathic pseudoscience professor who's obsessed with the occult and collecting all of these strange artifacts. He's got this book that is one of his all-time favorite pieces that he uses for some sinister deeds in his basement. And right off the bat here, Dourif has one of his super sexy students there who's inquiring about some things for class. And of course, she throws herself right at Brad, and he completely ignores her advances and decides to kill her instead. Not what I would have done. We've got some college kids running around a campus, and we're seeing this sort of hazing thing happen during Hell Week with these two groups of wannabe frat boys and wannabe frat girls. And they are put on this quest on Halloween night, kind of like a wild goose chase. They've got this checklist of random objects that they have to find around town. We get to follow them all over the place. Tiffany Shepis is one of them. The other major star of the film, besides Dourif and Tiffany Shepis, is her butt. because once you see her roaming around the entire movie in this silver jumpsuit, it is hard to get that out of your head. I mean, I watched this with a group of guys and girls. I thought I was the only one, and at the end of the movie, everyone sort of just looked at each other and said, "What about her butt?" Enough about that. They go on this wild goose chase to find these strange items all around town on Halloween. Pretty terrible music playing that is really entertaining to listen to. I mean, just god-awful, bad 2000s rock and roll going on. You'll know what I'm talking about when you hear it.
Burning bush, run down the street with your head on fire. Demons on the days to
They run all over town into these teams of two, and Tiffany Shepis goes along with this other bonehead. They end up going over to Brad Dourif's house, where they are instructed to find this mythical book of his that he is obsessed with. And they illegally enter his home, trying to find this book. She goes down into the basement, wanders down there to these creepy corridors, and lo and behold, she finds down there a pile of dead college girls. And that's not the only thing. She also finds Brad Dourif in sort of like a druid outfit, in this weird sort of skull-like serpent staff that he's got. And he chases her all around, and they get into a scuffle. She's trying to escape. They find the book. And then all of a sudden, he's pushed down the steps. She grabs one of these strange taxidermy animals as she falls down. Brad's coming down the steps, and he is impaled by the horn. They quickly rush out of there. They think about calling the cops, but they think that they can get out of there without anyone noticing. The thing about it is, they think he's dead, but guess what? He's not. He's in a coma. The cops and ambulances arrive at the scene later. They take him in the ambulance and bring him into the hospital. And like I said, he's in a deep trance-like coma, and he uses this power of astral projection to release his soul into the air. And that is where the mayhem really begins here. The kids end up getting trapped inside this mansion across town, and Brad Dourif's spirit is roaming around and enters their body. And this is where things start getting really crazy. Now, this film, I don't want to give too much away. There are a ton of really awesome little sequences here. You know how A Nightmare on Elm Street has its sort of classic sequences of like kills and stuff where weird shit will happen? This has a similar vibe to it. There are some really memorable kills here and practical effects and some shoddy CGI every now and again being utilized that come into play here when they are possessed by Brad's spirit. Whether it's a man or a woman, you can see that they use some sort of practical makeup effects there to make each of their faces look like Brad, which is pretty cool. This film has got a lot going for it besides just Tiffany Shepis's butt. There's some really cool stuff that happens with his staff later that I don't want to spoil. And even though the characters I said in the beginning are total numbnuts, they all kind of prove themselves in very surprising ways. It's got some really great character development that ends up defying the usual stereotypical tropes that are in slasher films and horror films that are quite a breath of fresh air in this one. As you can see, the girl on the cover's got a chainsaw as well, so things get pretty wild. She ends up being a pretty awesome character in this. The vibe of the holiday is just oozing out of almost every frame. Everyone's in costume, and cool little plot developments that kind of have you guessing up until the very last frame of the movie. I only wish that Rolf here would have kicked out a few more solid jams. I'm going to check out, I ordered a couple more of his films on eBay. They were very cheap. I think Nightmare Man and another one, I think with Tara Reid, that I heard could be promising. So I'm going to check those out as well. Maybe if I watch those by the next video, I'll give the scoop on a couple more of Rolf's films that I'm going to take a little dive into. So in the comments, if you could do me a favor and recommend something to me that's a little bit off the beaten path that has the Halloween spirit and vibe to it, I would absolutely love that. So yes, subscribe also if you're just watching this for the first time. We're just getting this started. I've got a whole blog, 15 years of my blog that's up. I've been neglecting it a little bit lately. I plan on getting into maybe writing a blog once a week or once every 2 weeks. But check out Universal Dork. There's tons of stuff there. I think I even covered this last year before I started this YouTube channel. All right then, get in the Halloween spirit even more. Check this one out. And I'll see you probably in less than a week with another film that I'm really excited to talk about. It's another film, I believe, from 2004 as well. So stay spooky.